I'm your host, Janisha Johnson, aka the Georgian Historian. Let's go hunting heritage.
Hello there. Sorry to interrupt, but this will only take a second. This is my site, uniquelygeekychic.com. This is where I sell poetry and decor, as you see here. I want to tell you about a new product that I just launched called Heaven Sent Mail. These tiny messages are mailed straight to you in these little cute envelopes that you see here. I really want to create an affordable product that will be a little pick-me-up for everyone in these hard times. So if you know someone who could use a pick-me-up, or if you need one, you can buy it for yourself. It'll be mailed straight to you in what you see here, and it comes with a little bouquet. I think it's the cutest little thing ever. So tell everyone you know about it, and now back to your regularly scheduled program. Also, this is a trigger warning, so if you're sensitive to things like sexual assault, particularly the R word and harsh language, these things come up towards the end.
Hello, my fellow historians, and to my people. I'm so excited for today's episode. I got a really good one for you. So, picking up from last time, I told you I visited Golden Hind's grave. And from there, my dad and I put boots on the ground. He was really instrumental in me continuing my research because he was the one who took me to all these cool places around the South. And it was very monumental in me figuring out that I wanted to create something permanent for future generations and the importance of collecting oral histories. Oral history is defined as the collection and study of historical information using sound recordings of interviews with people having personal knowledge of past events. Many cultures have designated people who keep the oral histories alive. In West Africa, in particular, across the countries Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Gambia, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Mauritania, Nigeria, Niger, and Senegal. The person who takes on this work is called Jeli or Jali in the Mande languages, Jewal in Wolof, and in English, Griot. All have the same meaning: troubadour historian. Griots preserve the genealogies, oral traditions, and historical narratives of their family and tribes as poets, musicians, and storytellers. They may sing praise songs, play the kora, a long-necked harp lute with 21 strings, and dance in the retellings such as of births, deaths, affairs, hunts, marriages, etc. In addition to serving as the primary storytellers of their people, griots also served as advisors to royalty and diplomats for their powerful wield of speech and presumed spiritual connection. Now, let's get into some oral histories that I personally collected from my own family, listening to my Uncle Frank, Aunt Wanda, and my own father as they recount some of their own tales from the deep, dirty South. Okay, so I'm going to ask everyone, do you know your grandparents?
All right, I'll let Wanda start this one.
Do I know my grandparents?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do know my mother's mom, and she passed in November 3rd of 2018. And she's the woman that raised me and until I was 12, and then I moved to New York and lived with my mom and my siblings. And that is the only grandparent that I've ever known. And she was one of the better or the best because I can't compare her to anyone else. Yeah, so I did.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
John, you want to go?
Okay. Well, I know my grandmother. She the one raised me and Frank. I know her well, very well. That's the only mother I ever knew. So but my granddaddy, Willie Johnson, my daddy, zero, nothing. And we still trying to find out something about him. And Frank do know a little bit about it, but I don't know nothing about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I am fortunate enough to have known my granddaddy, my great granddaddy. This is all on my father's side. So when I said know them, I've interacted with them. No wisdom was downloaded from either one because of both is kind of like I was only exposed to them for about a year. So there was not a download of a lot of information from the two. But I know on my mother's side, I know my grandfather and I know my grandmother pretty well. So I wished I could go back a little bit farther and had conversations with them, but didn't happen. So the only thing only thing that I can really add to that is that stuff that my grandmother would tell me about her father and his father. But I have laid eyes on all of those alive, so that's pretty good. Oh, your great grandmother. Oh, okay. See?
Well, my next question was, do you know your great grandparents?
Yeah.
Oh, wow! I jumped ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do. I knew my grandmother's mother, and her name was Gertrude Wright. And she lived with my grandmother when I was young because my grandmother was taking care of her mother until she passed. So I do know my great grandmother, Gertrude Wright. And that's all on my mother's side. And I don't know anyone on the father. I don't know of a great grandfather, no a great or grandfather. Yeah.
That name, one of that name that you just said, that Gertrude.
Yeah.
We see a lot of that in the cemeteries. That name,
Yeah.
Gertrude.
it's a rare name.
Southern.
Yeah.
Southern. That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll be down. Dang, that's good. One of your great grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Great grandmother. Mm-hmm.
Great grandmother, not great.
Mm-hmm. Just great.
Okay. That's right.
Great will go back into slavery.
That would be Gertrude's mother. So
well, let me ask you this here. Let me ask you this right here. Have you ever visited their grave site?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gertrude's grave site. Mm-hmm. I know exactly where it is.
Oh, it's in South Carolina?
It's in Walterboro. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. You been out there, Frank?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, there was an old saying when Gertrude had died back in the days when I was young. So it had to been I think Gertrude died when maybe I was 10 or 8. So you're looking at maybe anytime 70 or 74 between that time. And the reason why I remember her gravesite and I know exactly where it is today. Now, can we get to it today? I don't know because as far as Black cemetery, and it's a little different now. That you had a plot way in the woods. You had the white, the white folks in the front, and then you had the Black folks in the back. Land that they never cleared out, and they just said, well, you can buy this little piece of land back here, but you have to clean it out. So she's planted somewhere in the woods in Walterboro, and when I was young, they did that old spiritual thing, and where they actually take you to the gravesite and they cross you over. And what that does is that puts her spirit to rest. because back in the days in Walterboro, I don't know what it is, what it was like in Georgia, but they would actually cross the children over the grave sites, where they would hand you over from one adult to another adult to put the person that had passed at rest, so that person's spirit doesn't come back and haunt the children. And I don't know how true that is, but they did that back in the days. This is like an African type style, ritual where you cross the children over the grave. So yeah, I know where her gravesite is. And we had visited, me and my grandma, and we would go out there and try to clean it up, the best that we could. But it was in the woods. So, and it, every year it just grows up. And if you don't go out there on a regular basis, you won't be able to find it now. We probably can't find it today, but I know where it is, where it's located.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. Like crossing the children over. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, if you ever watched the movie Roots, or if you've seen any type of documentaries where they get married and then the bride and the groom will jump over or cross over the broom, and I guess that's prosperity that's supposed to keep them, married for years to come. Well, I guess it's the same, like when a person dies, you cross the children over the gravesite in order to keep the body at rest, or the spirit at peace. And then that way they don't come back and haunt the children.
Why the children though? Because children have like a stronger spiritual connection.
Probably so. And kids can see things that adults can't see. I mean that's proven, because and the reason why they did that is because I was young and I was actually sleeping in my great grandmother's bed that before the funeral of that week, and she did come to me as a child, and I was anywhere between 8 and 10. What would I know as a child that when my great grandmother walks into the room and then she pulls the cover back and then she strokes me and then says, "Don't cry, honey, everything's gonna be all right." And she was there. And the next morning when I told my grandmother about it, then they were like, "We're going to have to cross you over the grave because she's coming back." Yeah, she's coming back to haunt the child. And that did happen to me at a young age. My great grandmother came back that week she passed, and she was in the room, and I looked at her just as clear as day. And it could have been a dream, but a child that young, how would you know whether it's a dream? You can't really. And me being a child, I wouldn't know. Did it really happen? And no one really actually put those thoughts in my mind, because to me, I wasn't afraid. I just told my grandmother, great grandma was in the room last night. She came back and she was stroking my body and told me, "Don't worry, don't cry. Everything's going to be all right." And then right away, grandma was like, "Oh no, we can't have that happen. We have to take you to the gravesite for sure and make sure we cross you over."
Different part of the world, so do different things, man.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But now if it happens to me today, I think I would be afraid if a spirit came, into my bedroom. I would completely freak out. But as a child, I wasn't afraid. So it goes to show you, children actually do see things and they're not afraid of what they see, because things have not been put into their thoughts and in their minds that this is not right.
So I'm going to switch gears, and I want to ask everyone, tell me some of your worst professional experiences, like anything discriminatory or where someone was out of line, anything like that.
Professional.
Oh, okay.
Professional?
Okay. Like on the job.
Okay, then. I will tell you a story or two. Yeah, because I've been working longer than everybody else. But I guess it's a couple of things that stand out, and I briefed a little bit on it earlier, but I would definitely repeat this, and I'll be fairly quick about it. The one incident, and it was the very first incident that I had in my professional career that I really think that was very out of line, and that was when we had first aid training with resuscitation Annie. We had 2 resuscitation Annie. It was about a group of 30 people that had to go through this training. To my surprise, when I walked in the room, there was 2 set up, 1 line for white and 1 line for blacks. And it was set up that way because you had to give mouth to mouth.
That's right.
And the whites did not want any to be going mouth to mouth with anything that a black man had went mouth to mouth with. Now, this was in the late 80s, okay? You know, and the second thing that happened on that same job was that I went over to administrators' offices and helped out an assistant superintendent with his laptop. You know, the conversation went sort of like this. I'm in the room working on the fire alarm system, and he's having a problem with his Apple computer. So I opened my mouth and said, you know, try this. And he tried it and it worked. And he said, wow, what department do you work in? And I told him, I said, I'm over in operation, which was maintenance, because I was working on fire alarm and intercom systems at that time. And he said, well, we need to get you into computers in this district. And, you know, I thanked him and I left. I didn't think anything of it. Well, the next day, my foreman, the guy that was in charge, when I called him foreman, because that's what it was at the job at that time, he told me in no uncertain terms, we was driving from one school to another, and I'll never forget it, the Newington Elementary School where we was headed. And he looked over at me and said, well, the next time that you volunteer information to an assistant superintendent, you can pick up your bags and you can go home and never come back again. Well, the first time I had a problem, of course, I didn't say anything at that meeting. Well, this time, you know, I'm in my early 30s, so I was strong and vibrant. So I fired back at him pretty hard on that one. And, but later on in life, though, it turned out when I voiced my opinion on it, he ended up bringing my kids over clothing, and you know, he just was a different person at that time. I mean, after that. But, you know, this same man was raised up in a small town in South Carolina, Urquhart, South Carolina. That was just a racist town. So, of course, he was a racist. So, you know, it wasn't a big deal with me as far as, because I know I wasn't going anywhere. You know, when you're 30 years old, you figure you're going to be around forever. So we had our little talk, got kind of rude with him, and I dropped it and moved on. But since, like I say, he's long gone now, but his wife, every time one have been with me. Have you been with me when I met his wife?
Yeah.
And see how she just loved herself some Frank. But at the time, that was contentious, that what happened. Now, the next incident I had, I was still on the job, but not actually at the job. I was driving a company vehicle back in 1992 in Charleston. You can research it when we get off this meeting. There was a Low Country's rapist going around, and I got stopped in my neighborhood, a neighborhood that I drove in and out every day, going to work, and every day coming back home. Well, I was stopped by a police officer, and I thought I was speeding. And, you know, I just, like you always do, what was I doing something wrong? He said, no, there's a rapist going around, and I thought maybe you had something to do with it, or you was the person. Well, when you look up this guy, you can see how I never should have been stopped. The guy was white. And everybody in South Carolina, or in the world, because it was a total U.S. thing. This guy raped at least 32 women, I think. But he was a white guy. He was a white guy, but I got stopped. Go get it. Okay, that didn't make any sense, right? That didn't make any sense. My next incident, and I'm going down to, I'm getting back to the one incident that started it all, that shaped racism for me. I got transferred to Charleston back in the early 80s. and I was very active. I ran all the time. So, I'm out running in a little town called Hanahan, South Carolina. Blind to, it's my fault. I should have known better. Well, I got hit in the back of the neck with a bottle. Scars there would be there for the rest of my life. So it was a couple of white guys.
Damn.
Of course, they yelled. They yelled out explicits and ran off into the yonder. And I'm laying there bleeding, but I'm here today to talk about it. So God was on my side that night. Well, I think I was able to tolerate all of that, what you just heard, because of an incident that happened with me and my brother when he was just a little boy. I was just a little boy, and we was walking through, and we used to get dropped off. When our dad go to Albany to work, he would drop us off right out there on Dawson Road, and then he would continue on to work. And then we would navigate ourselves either over to Maggie Sims, which is his sister, and play with them, or we would go over to our other cousin's house in Albany and, just hang out. Well, this particular day, he dropped us off and went on about his business. We walking through this area, right in the Mary Acres area. I don't know exactly the street, but that's a big church on the end of it.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about now.
And we walking through that area. And this is, we had to be maybe 10. John could have been 10, or I don't know the ages, but we was old enough to navigate ourselves around town, put it that way. But we wasn't teenagers. So these guys rode through and said, "Niggers, get out of town." They're just yelling at us, And being in the country, we had racist people come out there, but no one has never called. That was the first time I would ever call a nigger.
Mm-hmm. Dang.
And I wasn't afraid because I didn't know how to be afraid. So I don't like now. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid, but that I only got called a nigger actually twice. But at that young age, it framed my whole life of how I was going to handle racism.
That's all, folks, for today's video. But thank you, participants, and thank you, viewers. Remember, if you want to contact me about the show, all the links, including this one, are in the description box below, along with my social medias and any place that you can find me. And don't forget to like and comment and share this video. And if you want to tell your own oral histories, I will be so interested to hear about it. Just email me and you could possibly be on the show. Until next time, peace.